This show is brought to you in part by viewers like you who joined a Patreon or become YouTube members. Thank you. And if you could, hit the like button and subscribe if you want more Browns-focused content.
And I think that brings me into another part I want to talk about is what is actually a success for this team, right? Because we can sit here and say, well, if they get to this record, that's a success. I have done this long enough, and I know you have too, to know you could get to any record and be mad about it. You could be happy with a lot of different records out there, right? Like you could say, I'd be furious if we were 3 or 14. If Arch Manning looked like the real deal and you got the number 1 and 2 pick. Guess what? You're going to be happy with 3 wins. You're going to be delighted. Right. You're going to demand that the team lose more, right? If there is that level of prospect available, right? If Andrew Luck is sitting there at number 1, you're going to be mad if you win 5 games, right? Like that's just going to be what it is. And I've seen teams fire coaches after winning 12, right? Like,
Houston fired Lovey after he won the last game of the year in order to lose the number 1 pick, and it worked out for them anyway.
Yeah. So what I'm saying here is how you feel about the team and what we're ultimately going to feel comfortable calling success has not as much to do with the win-loss record as we think. 2018 feels like a success. It was an under 500 season. Mm-hmm. It felt like a success because we felt good about what we needed to feel good about. So that's why I want to kind of figure out for the second half of this video is what needs to happen for us to feel like the Browns had a successful season. I think some of these things are going to be deeply related to what we see on Sunday. I think some of these things are going to have more to do with Saturday too. If I'm being honest with you, right? But I think there are a number of things that can happen for this team that we would leave the year being like, you know what? This was a worthwhile season. Obviously, we want the football on the field to be respectable. We don't want to be embarrassed to watch this team play, right? Mm-hmm. I think they're in line to be able to do that. I think we're going to be like, oh, we almost beat this team. We almost beat that team. Maybe we're going to get mad at a couple of coaching decisions here or there, a couple of play calling things here or there, but we're not going to feel like this team was like so far away. And I think that's the number one thing I want to hit here. Well, for the first thing I want to hit here is you don't want to leave this season feeling like you're far away. Yeah. Last year, that season ended and it was like, oh, we got so much work to do because of how bad they looked at times. I think at the end of the season, you don't want to feel far. You want to feel like you've made real progress towards where you want to go.
Yeah, and that's kind of my biggest thing is like not even I'll stick with just the team because again, like college football can have how the season goes, whatever. We're always going to have some rising prospect, whatever. But as for like the Browns as a whole, there were so many games last year where just going in, it just felt like I hope that we don't get our ass kicked. Like, and with this team in particular, I feel like this season would be, and almost similar to like you said with 2018. And the team that I'm going to compare this to is one that I know everybody makes a lot of comparisons to in general and tries to, is Detroit. But that first like the season before Detroit got good and got into the playoffs, where all of a sudden it went from like, God, this team, like they're calling it one of the worst built teams in the league. And then all of a sudden
to get people to understand just how far Detroit went. The Browns beat Detroit that year and Baker Mayfield was furious about the fact they only did it by 3. Like I'm not even like play furious. He did not do a press conference after the game and took a fine because he was that angry that they only beat Detroit by 3. And like I kind of understood it because it was bad. It looked that bad, right? That was 2021, right?
Yeah, 2021. And like that first year where like, when they all of a sudden started stacking those wins at the end of the year, and all of a sudden it just turned into, oh, Detroit actually looks interesting. Like where I think they ended with a 7-10 record, or it was like them going 8-9, I think was how that season ended. Like the record might not look great. It might be below 500, but at the end of the day, like they were competitive in a lot of games and they showed a lot of promise.
Mm.
And I think for me, that's one where it's like you can see the overall talent meshing, even if some things might be a little lackluster, maybe twist and maybe, tweaking a few things around the roster. But that's one of my successes. And then two is, and look, I don't know if you're going to be successful when it comes to this, but at least having an understanding of, do I have something here with these quarterbacks?
Mm.
And if it's, I don't think it's going to be Kenny, but like if Dylan goes out there and shows a little bit of a spark or something like that, great, cool. If Shador goes out there, tears it up, like, all right, awesome, cool. Like understanding whether or not you want to continue with either guy as a starting quarterback next year. Like,
Yeah.
and having an understanding of that, or at least to make it a conversation come draft time, where
By
it's
the,
like,
by the way, I don't know if I've told everybody this is this is Mac Robinson 92.3
we just
to fan.
jumped in. I
Yeah,
wasn't going to
we
say
just
anything.
went.
We're just rolling.
Yeah, we're just rolling in. I'll make sure I put that in the description. But yeah, I would agree with that though. Like I don't really care who it is. I just don't want to be desperate going into next season at quarterback, right? I don't want to feel like we have no viable options to start the year with. It could be that they're going to ultimately be a bridge guy, right, for the next guy you get. But I don't want to feel like we're at the end of this season, like who knows what the draft position is going to be, who knows what the draft's going to look like. But I don't want to feel like on the roster, none of these guys can come back, right? Or that I'm not really interested in seeing more from any of these guys. I want to feel at least comfortable enough that if I had to start somebody for 12 games next year, the thought of doing that does not make me sick, right? Like that's where I want to be at. So that it's not going to be Joe Flacco because like I don't imagine he has 12 games in him.
I don't either.
A year from now, like maybe this year, but a year from now after playing like the thing about Joe Flacco is he wasn't playing for a while, right? He's played so many games over the last few years that like there's going to be some natural wear and tear. So whatever you were worried about happening with him when he came off the street in Cleveland in 2023, you have to factor he played those 6 games. He played like 6 games last year. He has more wear and tear plus age on him, significantly more than he did when he came in to help you in 2023. So like I'm not
41.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like we got to be honest about it. Like I love Joe Flacco. I love what he did in 2023. But also, like, let's also be honest. This man is 41 years old. Like,
yeah, and I don't want to be at the point. I don't want to be talking about trading for Kirk Cousins next offseason. Like, I could tolerate it and I can understand it. And ultimately, like, it made sense for the right price for the Browns this offseason. I don't want to do that next offseason, right? I don't want to be talking about having to bring in Russell Wilson. Like, if we're doing that, we're in trouble, right?
Yeah.
The season was not a success. That what you wanted to be accomplished did not get accomplished. We're talking about bringing in Russell Wilson. Like, and no disrespect to Russell Wilson, but that's not the type of place you want to be at, right? You want to feel like, hey, if we got to give Dylan 12 next year, we can give Dylan 12 next year. If we want to make next year all about giving Shador a shot because we're not impressed with this quarterback class, then we can give Shador the shot, right? That's where I want to be at. You know what I mean? If we can get there with quarterback, any one of these guys, preferably on a rookie deal, because Kenny Pickett, I don't want to pay for that, right? Like, I ain't trying to pay no money for Kenny Pickett at that point. Like, so, maybe if the price is right, it could be Kenny Pickett. But if you can get there with one of those rookie quarterbacks where we're like, let's see what, like, hey, push kind of shove. If our guy's not there, let's say your guy's Cade Klubnik and he's not there at 5. Okay, we could just take best player available, trade back, do whatever we want, right?
Yeah.
Like, and feel like you're not panicking at the quarterback position. I do not expect it to be solved at the end of this season, right? If it's solved, then I don't care what the record is. The season was a success.
Agreed.
But I don't expect it to be solved. I just want to be out of the let's trade for Kirk Cousins' place, right? Like, I don't want to be a part of that, right?
I don't want to have to bargain with who our quarterback is going to be next year. Like bargaining with
I don't want to answer questions about if Derek Carr is willing to come out of retirement, play for Cleveland. Like, if we're there, we're not in a good place. If we're talking about youthful options, then we're in a much better place, right? If we're debating whether we should give Dylan Gabriel, Shador Sanders, or insert your favorite 2026 draft class quarterback that the Browns could pick, if we're having that argument, I think that's a good thing, right? Because that means one of those guys that we drafted are viable at this point. But if we're not having that argument and we're like, well, do you think Russ can hold it down and we can reach for a quarterback and whatever? I feel very bad about the future.
Right. Well, and even to bounce off that point too, you know, like part of it too that I look at, because I'm in the camp that I don't believe that Arch is going to come out this year. I think he comes out in 2027. Like, if I'm the Browns, the success for me is like, hey, you know what? I saw enough from Shador, or I saw enough from Dylan Gabriel that, you know, I feel comfortable enough wanting to see what they have, and I can move down from this top pick up a first rounder next year, and then if it doesn't work, cool. We're either picking number 1 or we're trading up in order to take Arch.
And I think ultimately what we're talking about is options, right?
Yeah.
We want the Browns to get to wherever they are into the draft this year and have those resources and have options. We don't want them feeling like we got to do something. Let's trade for Kyler Murray, right? Like, let's trade for Tua. Like, you know, that's not where I want to be at.
I mean, hell, they basically did that at the draft this year when all they had was Kenny Pickett, and then they waited until 2 weeks before the draft to sign Joe so that they didn't feel desperate at the draft when everybody knew you have a 40-year-old man and Kenny Pickett as your 2 quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like, I want it to be more of a debate about who should be the quarterback next year instead of if we must draft this position because goddamn we're desperate, right? Which was the conversation this year. Yeah. And it was acceptable this year because literally everything that happened in 2024. Okay, whatever. I get why we were at this place. There is no excuse to be at this place next year, right? And that's why I don't want to be debating with people because next year there's no holding that debate off. This year there's holding that debate off. But if we get to this year, next year, and we're in that same spot, and it's the same debate about it doesn't matter if this quarterback's worth this pick. We need a quarterback. We got to take one. We're gonna reach for one, and I don't feel good about that. But I can't tell fans at that point, hey, you gotta wait it out, right? Because it's not there, right? Like the argument is no longer there. This year, the argument was there. You're in year 1 of this thing. Like, let's see what next year has, because this class didn't look great. And lo and behold, you got the guy that people wanted at 2 in the 5th round. So kudos, right? Not the year to take a quarterback at 2. Confirmed. Like, straight up. Confirmed. So yeah, that's all fine in there. But next year, you're not gonna be able to hold that back. You know, you're gonna be in a place where it's gonna be almost impossible to hold that back. So you can't be there. And I think a thing that I'm attached to this is we gotta see Kevin Stefanski be able to work with the young quarterback because he has not done it to the level that would make us happy, right? Display the level of consistency there. I would say there are people who take this argument a bit far and say Kevin's never done anything with any quarterback. That's not true. Kevin has done and gotten a lot out of some quarterbacks, but they're usually veteran quarterbacks, right? Can he demonstrate that he has learned enough since the 2021 Baker Mayfield disaster that he can actually be helpful to a young quarterback? Because I think there's something there. 2020 Baker Mayfield was like, oh, there's a blue. That's what we got so freaking excited for in 2020. Like, it wasn't just Baker. We were like, oh, we got a coach that could cook it. Yeah. Like, that's what it felt like. Because watching Baker in 2020, it's not what you see with Baker now. It's almost like seeing somebody in a Shanahan offense, right? And They figured that out in 2020 for whatever reason, and however that happened, right? And maybe no crowds had something to do with it, and it made communication lines a lot cleaner. Maybe it just all clicked that year, right, for everybody involved. Maybe the offensive line was so damn good it didn't matter, right, and just gave you all the time in the world. Maybe it's all of these things that factored in. But that's what I want to see. I want to go back. I want to see Kevin Stefanski and truly believe he is elevating the young quarterback in there, because I don't think that happened with DTR, and I don't think that ever happened with Deshaun Watson. I don't think we can ever make the argument that he made those guys look better than they are. I expect DTR to look better in Philadelphia than he did in Cleveland, right? And I don't want to get to the end of the season feeling like I got to trade for a veteran quarterback because Kevin can't work with rookies. Right. Yeah. Because that's another place that we could be in that's not good, where like you got to let go of Kevin because he's not good with young quarterbacks, and you need somebody who's good with young quarterbacks. And then he gets picked up by like Cincinnati. And you imagine him with Joe Burrow, he'd probably be really good. So and that would bite us in the ass. Right. So hopefully we end the season feeling like Kevin can work that magic with a young quarterback. And I think that will also, like, whatever the record is, right? If you get that thing right there right, you feel so much better about this team's ability to find a quarterback. Because I think a lot of people's opinion on it are low, and I understand it. But if we see those two things, right, the Kevin Stefanski work well with a young quarterback, and in turn, that means that you feel decent about playing one of these young guys, then you're going to be like, okay, there's a plan. There's a template. He was able to get decent quarterback play out of Dylan Gabriel. I didn't think it could happen. He squeezed some good quarterback. Even if he does it with Kenny Pickett, you're like, hey, hold on, dog. Like,
right.
Like there might be something there with Kevin, right? That can work with a younger quarterback. Or maybe he could be the reclamation guy that could get you by while you try to develop somebody in the background. So that, to me, I think is the most vital part to this season. Everything else that can happen. If Myles Garrett wins Defensive Player of the Year again, that's amazing, but that doesn't change how I feel about the franchise, their trajectory over the next 10 years, right? If the Browns are the best defense on earth, that's not going to really I'm not predicting they're going to be that, but if like Mason Graham and Mike Hall look like they're ready to go, then yeah, I'm not going to be surprised that defense is like the best defense in the league.
Right. Well, I'll also add on to that too. Like if Mason Graham flashes, because I think he will be able to. My only thing when it comes to this defense, the defensive line in particular, is I still think that loss of Dalvin Tomlinson is going to be felt just because you haven't really replaced that nose tackle position. You got a lot of 3 technique players that are really good pass rushers, but I don't know if you've truly replaced that run stopper in the middle. But at the same time, if Mason Graham's able to create a lot of pressure up the middle, especially too, and between that and also if you're able to find that counterpart between Alex Wright and Isaiah McGuire off the edge, or hell, even if Joe Tryon-Shoyinka is able to give you something that he wasn't able to in Tampa, if all of a sudden you're able to get an answer opposite of Miles too, I'm going to be feeling a hell of a lot better, especially. And then the other part too is that one of the things too is I got to see success from either Greg or Emerson.
That's big, yeah.
Because MJ's coming into a contract year. Greg also obviously is in the last year of his deal, or coming up to the last year of his deal. I'm not sure which, but for both of those guys, they got a contract on the line here. And MJ obviously had a disappointing year last year, but was downright dominant before the year. And I mean, hell, even there was word coming out in the joint practices against the Vikings that, he was locking down Justin Jefferson, but he was having his struggles during the season. And so, in hearing that, I need one of those guys to jump out and give Andrew Berry a reason to give you a good payday. And then the other one too is, and this especially just goes to one person in particular, but Carson Schlesinger.
Yes.
If you are able to not only live up to that, I'm not even going to include the JOK injury and him not being there. If you're able to lock down that middle linebacker spot, Between him and Graham, the only two rookies that were drafted on the defensive side, if they're able to go ahead and fill their role, at least defensively, I think that's a success. And I think that the DB room is one of my bigger questions.
Yeah, I'd agree with you on all of that, especially like Martin, because it could be something like Donovan Peoples-Jones where we're like, oh, he's going to get paid. And the next thing you know, he get traded to Detroit, and we ain't never heard of him again, right? So, yeah, it's a big year for Martin Emerson especially. I think Greg Newsome as well, but he's a former first-round pick, so he's going to be protected, right? He's going to get a deal from somebody next year. Regardless of if it's the Browns that want to do it, and he also got the 5-year extension, which teams are going to look at and be like, there's something there. So he get picked up. Pittsburgh could pick him up if the Browns don't, right? Like that's usually how that thing goes there, because they pick up all of our corners we don't that we've let go in the draft, because they did it with. Remember, they did it with Justin Gilbert, and then
the straight swap for Sammy Coates.
Yeah, so. There'll be something there with Greg, but I think with Martin, he's a little bit less protected here. So I think there's going to be something to say with him. Yeah, but that's really what it boils down to. I'm pretty sure this defense is going to be good. So, like, if they look good, it's not going to move me on, like, this being a successful season, right? Like, that's the thing that can make you frustrated if the defense is good, but you don't get these other things. You're like, oh, we wasted a year of elite defense because we didn't have quarterback figured out. But if we get that defensive play and we're like, oh, man, like, there's a pathway to get good at quarterback, whether that be, and I think it's going to take a combination of things, but it's probably going to take a combination of feeling good about Kevin Stefanski working with young quarterbacks, having an option at quarterback that we don't feel awful about starting next year. And also, maybe there's somebody in the draft that we're looking at like, hey, Dylan can hold it down or Shador can hold it down for a year or two, and that gives us time to get this guy along, and then we can really solve this problem for the long term and just finally get rid of the damn jersey, right? Like, that will feel, because it's one thing to say, oh, well, they need to get a new quarterback. It doesn't really start like Pittsburgh, for example, right? They haven't started the clock on actually getting a new quarterback. They've just been, all right, let's get an old guy, let's throw him in, right? Just like last year didn't really start the clock with the Browns, and this year probably isn't going to start the clock with them and getting a new quarterback, because the real long-term option, at least the one that they've invested in to this point, does not seem to be there unless like somebody surprises you like Shador or Dylan. And when I say surprise you, I'm just talking about their 3rd and 5th round picks, right? If the Browns thought that they were franchise quarterbacks, they would have been taken number 2 overall, right? So they would surprise the Browns. If you are personally a Shador Dylan fan, I know you're not going to be surprised, but that ain't what I'm talking about, right? Like, I'm talking about the Browns being surprised. So yeah, if they get surprised by something like that emerging, obviously that's a good thing. But you just want to feel like, okay, we can develop a quarterback, right? And not feel hopeless about the guy that you're bringing in, right? Not feel like you're just throwing him into a hopeless situation. Because if you think the quarterback play looks bad, it doesn't look like Kevin has elevated a guy, we're going to have real questions about, hey, man, should we throw a quarterback into this and keep Kevin around, like, because we've already done the change the offensive coordinator thing, and that's where you get into a really dark place as a franchise, right? When you have to fire your 2-time coach of the year because you don't think you could develop a quarterback and get back out there in them streets, but you're probably still going to want to keep Andrew Berry because you're not going to want to just have a new staff when you're drafting that quarterback. So that's where you can get in a real dark place here, right? But if you avoid that, and I think in the long term, we'll look at this season as a success. Now, you can do that and win 6 games. You can do that and win 9 games. You can do that and win 10 games, right? Like, I don't think there's a limit on how many games you can win and get that feeling from. Like, for example, the Browns could be dog water for like 12 weeks, 0-12. But if they win the last 5 games of the season, or if they finish the year 3-2, but like Shador looks amazing in them last 5 games when he plays, we're going to be, all right, let's exactly go. We ready, So it's like, it really it really matters how it happens and what's happening during the season. The reason we hate it this season is because we have no hope at the quarterback position ending it. Like, there was this absolute DTR. You were done with him by the end of the season. Deshaun Watson, like, I done isn't even describe how the fan base felt about him by the time that he got injured. And then you had what? Jameis Winston. Well, that was fun for a couple of weeks, but like
Jameis Winston, you had Bailey Zappi.
Yeah, it was like, okay, we don't need to bring anybody back. If we feel that way at the end of next year, that's where I'm like, that's the one outcome where I'm like, people might get fired, right? Yeah.
That's where it gets leaked real quick.
Yeah, but if we don't feel like that, and it's legitimate, then we're in a much better place. Yeah. But that's really the goal of this season. If they can go to the playoffs and do that, then awesome, right? But that's what they like. If you're looking at the objective to clear the mission, right, this year, right, to beat the game this year, that's the objective. We need to feel a lot better about this quarterback position than we do right now. Not just about who's in the room, more so about who's developing that room. Because right now, I don't see a lot of reason for people to be super confident in it.
No, and I agree. And that's my biggest thing too, is like, it almost felt like after the Watson injury last year, you know, what was it? Stefanski gave the play calling over to Ken Dorsey. And, you know, it really just seemed like, all right, cool. Jameis starting. Ken's going to go and call the plays. It's just, all right, it's off my plate. Like, this is not me. This is that we're getting through. And like, again, it especially with the quarterback position too, because, and also too, this is another one too, is that the quarterback play has to be good enough to evaluate other positions.
Yes.
Because
yes, that's a great point.
Like, I need to know, like, at least like when you had Jameis out there, again, obviously the turnovers weren't great, but at least you got to see something out of Cedric Tillman to say like, wow, okay, great. This guy actually progressed from year one. You know, you were able to see a lot of stuff out of Jerry Jeudy. You were able to evaluate, you know, you had the ups and downs of David Njoku, but like, you know,
even the run game, we were like, okay, so Jerome Fort's not a 200 carry guy, because like, it wasn't like the boxes were just like so stacked every time he ran the ball, and these things were happening, you know?
Yeah, and that's where I'm like, the quarterback play has to be good enough to where you can actually make judgment calls on other positions. And I mean, hell, even like when Watson was playing at the beginning of last year, he's holding onto the ball for so long. No wonder he's giving up sacks. Like, the offensive line, well, yes, like early on, Joel Bitonio was getting pushed in against Dallas. Like, that also doesn't help when your quarterback, there's wide receivers that are wide open and he's just not throwing the ball. Like,
and we were starting Jermaine Ifedi and
and
all those injuries at the tackle position, right? So yeah, I think that's an even better point. Like, you want to feel like you got a fair evaluation of everybody here, or at least as close to a fair one as you can get. I think that's a great point there, because that was one of the most frustrating things. It's like, I don't know who's good or not, like, because we're not even getting.
I have no idea.
Yeah, like, it seems like Jerry's having a solid year, but like, you ain't getting the ball thrown to you. We can't really confirm nothing, right? The same thing with Cedric Tillman, where he got out there. I think in those 5 games he played, he averaged per 17 games, he would have had like 1,100 yards or something like that.
Yeah.
So, I think that's a huge part of it, right? Like, if this quarterback room can get to a point, and I think this is why Joe Flacco's going to start, because I think that's the guy who's going to allow you to at least know what's going on with the team, right? Get an early diagnosis of what's going on. Then you can fuck around at quarterback, right? Like, you need to know though, like, okay, where's Cedric Tillman at? Where's Jerry Jeudy at? What do we really have? Okay, let's put a young guy in. Right? Like, I think that's ultimately the purpose that Joe Flacco serves, unless Kenny Pickett proves that he's a starting caliber quarterback, which I know the Browns are hopeful. I'm not saying I'm not hopeful that could happen. I'm just saying I'm not expecting that to be the case with Kenny Pickett.
I am skeptical whether or not that can be the case.
Yeah, I have no plans on that being the case with Kenny Pickett, right? So, that's kind of what they're trying to get to. And I think that's a huge part of this, right? And it's really about that. And I know people are going to hear it, oh, this isn't a championship year, or this isn't a year where you can really demand of the playoffs from this team, so maybe you don't want to be a part of it. But I like this part, this kind of a season where you're like trying to figure out what you got and you're sorting stuff out. Like 2018, I have fond memories of that because like that was like, oh, we're figuring out that Nick Chubb's really good. He needs to get the ball more, right? And he had to fire. Like we forget all the tumultuous garbage that happened in the 2018 season. We fired Hugh Jackson. Baker Mayfield was staring people down and like getting mad at Tony Grossi. Like,
I mean, my favorite part too from that season was like Hugh refusing to play Nick Chubb until John Dorsey shipped Carlos Hyde down to Jacksonville, saying, "No, you're gonna play this dude. Damn it! I don't care how I have to get it. You're gonna get that dude on the field."
There was a open. Was it is it an insurrection? Yeah, like coup that was done by Todd Haley that year. Right, to try to seize control of the team, and then they both got fired. Like that season was you can read from certain things and portray it like that, and you can say that season was a mess, but it didn't feel like a disaster. It didn't feel like a failed season because you ultimately left that year thinking, well, you got Baker Mayfield. You know, Jarvis Landry was pretty good, right? Nick Chubb, this guy's good. I think this offensive line is going to be much better if we just get some guys around it, right? Now, that was still when we were hoping that Greg Robinson, like, figuring it out, and that blew up in 2019. But there was still hope that the offensive line could be solid because they were better than we thought they were going to be. And, you know, Myles Garrett was continuing to develop into the superstar that he'd eventually become, and you felt good about the team. Yeah, all that garbage happened. All that nonsense happened. I think Demarius Randall threatened to kill somebody that year. Like, was it Demarius Randall or no? Demarius Randall did not. No. Williams. Jermaine Whitehead threatened to kill Dustin Fox.
My old coworker.
Like, yes, like this is the stuff that happened that season, but we look back at it and go, oh, no, it was actually a pretty good season. That was an enjoyable watch. And that's what I mean, where I'm like, yeah, man, all this other stuff can go down. All this stuff that doesn't make you feel that great in the moment can go down. But if you have these things at the end of the year, you're probably going to feel much better about this team. The question is, while we're evaluating it, where's that going to be? I don't know the answer to that, but I at least have some excitement about figuring it out because I don't feel like I know the answer. And that's a fine enough place for me to be at before camp, right? Like, I'm excited to see Shedeur Sanders practice in some pads against other teams to play in the preseason. I'm excited to see Dylan Gabriel. You know what I mean? Like, I don't believe in Dylan Gabriel. Like, it's funny. I get not dunked on, but I get argued with Shedeur fans the most. And I believe in Shedeur more than like any of these other quarterbacks. Right? It's such a weird cognitive dissonance that I'm just not Shedeur enough for the Shedeur crowd, I guess. But I don't really care for doing that, right? Like,
right.
But it's like, I'm excited about seeing Shedeur. I'm not a big believer in Dylan Gabriel. I have spoken my piece about this, and like, height does matter in the NFL, but I'm not going to close the door on it, right? Like, hey, the Browns looked at him, said he has the college experience that we desire. When I talk to guys that I trust, my guy Derek Bell, he covers the Steelers. You know, he's a big film guy. He's telling me like he's looking at college experience as like putting more of a premium on that as these prospects come out because he thinks it matters. I don't think it matters as much, but I trust his opinion as well to consider it. And it's like, okay, well, you know, they looked at that. They saw his experience. And to Dylan's credit, he's been good everywhere he's played. There's a chance that they figure something out with that guy and that ends up working out. And, you know, whatever working out with Dylan Gabriel is what it is. But, you know, as much as Cleveland is nervous about him being 5'11" and it being cold out here, let little dude get out here in the snow and start slinging it, dog. We gonna be all behind it. Like that's my scrap. We gonna call him Scrappy Dude or whatever. It's like we gonna do what we need to do, dog. You
know what? I'm keeping the Scrappy Dude nickname. I love that.
If Dylan Gabriel starts cooking, like cooking with the Cleveland Browns, somebody is going to put like the fathead head of Dillon Gabriel over Scrappy Dude's body and saying like, he's small, but he's mighty. Like we will get behind Dillon Gabriel if that's the guy that can do it, right? Whether like I'm right on it or not, I don't care about being right here. I just want the Browns to be good. And I think if we can feel like they're not that far, or that we could be like, hey, if we have to draft somebody, we just got to make sure, like, because if it works out with Dillon, the answer might not be that Dillon is the future. But if Dillon was the guy that the Browns wanted, Kevin wanted, right? That's the assumption that we're making here. Well, then you're going to feel a lot better about Kevin picking that guy in the first round. Exactly. Like that's where you don't want to be terrified about drafting a quarterback. And they got some work to do before they can get to that point. And I think that's what this season's going to be about, figuring out here's how terrified are you about this team drafting a quarterback in the first round next year? Because more than likely, they're going to make some kind of significant investment at quarterback, if we're being honest about where this team is, how they've set everything up. They're going to do something. They could trade those picks for a veteran. They can draft somebody. They could trade up. But odds are they're going to do something at the position significant. Maybe somebody works out this year, but more than likely next offseason is when they do that significant move. Andrew Berry he's interested because he won't tell you, but he telegraphs things, right? Mm-hmm. This is one of those like, okay, they're telegraphing. They're doing something in 2026. Yeah. Or at least that's what the plan is. That plan can change, but that's the plan. And I want to feel better about this plan's execution rate, because right now, I don't know if I'd be super confident, right? Like, I'm gonna be honest. Like, I agree. And that's my biggest thing too. Like, especially, obviously growing up, following the team, everything like that. Like, I'm used to rebuilds, and like, honestly, like a season like this where you have a lot of questions going into it, you have a lot of young guys that really can jump into different roles and everything like that too. And seeing that growth from a lot of these guys, a lot of that stuff really interests me, and that really kind of catches my attention. But like, again, getting a chance to see, like you said, this is the first time that we've seen a significant, at least in the draft side of things, a significant investment from this regime in a quarterback, both between, and I say significant by saying taking somebody higher than the 5th round, and that being Dillon Gabriel. And then obviously, I know you took him around the same pick that you took DTR, but again, Shador ain't DTR. Like, it comes with a different, whole set of circumstances going in. So, getting a chance to see how they handle these, this is almost like a training run, at least getting a chance to see, like, what's it like? How do they handle rookie quarterbacks, getting them those snaps during the offseason? How do they handle, bringing some of these guys along, especially going into training camp and everything before they make that big jump, first round. And it's also worth noting, like, the other times where they had young, because I know people like throw Kellen Mond into this one, but like Kellen Mond does not count to me. Kellen Mond was absolute garbage. Yeah, well, and he wasn't brought in with any assets, right? He was just kind of picked up off the street. But he was a backup with a multi-year deal. The first time that they are in a position to develop a quarterback, right? They like put a lot of attention on quarterback development, because when they drafted DTR, the focus was undoubtedly Deshaun Watson, right? DTR was in the back seat to all of that. This is a little different, right? Maybe the game plan focus isn't going to be on the rookie quarterbacks, but the developmental focus, which was on Deshaun Watson when DTR got drafted, that focus is going to be on these guys. So it's more of a one-to-one, like, okay, when you're actually trying to develop somebody, what happens, right? Because DTR, you're just seeing what happens, hoping he'd be a backup for the cheap because you knew you signed your quarterback to an expensive contract, right? With the hope that, hey, maybe this could be Jalen Hurts in like 4 years, right? Mm-hmm. It didn't work out like that. But you didn't really invest much when it came to draft, or really invest much when it came to development with him, because during the time we had DTR on the roster, what was everything about? Deshaun Watson. How do we get Deshaun Watson to learn the offense? How do we get Deshaun Watson to be more comfortable? Do we change the offensive coordinator for Deshaun Watson? Like, literally, DTR's whole Browns career was in the shadow of everything they were doing to get Deshaun Watson upright, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know if we can really take too much away from that. This one's going to be more one-to-one. Like, I feel like I can make more of what happens here with these quarterbacks, because I can look at it and go, they were putting a lot of resources into these two, right? They're going to get snaps during camp. We know Dylan's going to get first team reps because he's already gotten them, right? Shador's probably going to get some first team reps. Either way, these guys are going to see the field a lot in training camp, and not just see the field, but be watched because they're important to this team this year, versus with DTR, where DTR was a footnote. We didn't really care if DTR played or not, and really honestly hoped he didn't have to play, right? Now it's a bit different because there's no Deshaun Watson hawking up the resources of the quarterback room, because that's not the number one focus of what we must get right. Even if he comes back, he's an afterthought. Like, he's in that DTR position where it's like, all right, man, whatever. Like, whatever you can give us is what you can give us. The focus is somewhere else. That's kind of where this is a lot different. So, I wanted to add that too.
Let's also put it in perspective too. Since Stefanski's been here, this team has really punted on preseason games too. This is the first year where Stefanski and them, especially from a developmental standpoint, like, this is going to be key reps for development for both of their rookies. Mm-hmm. And preseason's actually going to kind of matter here a little bit. Like, and actually, maybe a few players that, you don't expect to get as much run, get more run, so that, like we talked about before, you have better evaluation of who you have here. Like, and better understanding of what you have from the quarterback position, their chemistry with different wide receivers, and how those different, groups all kind of come together. Maybe you see a little bit more run time with maybe some of the starters with Dylan Gabriel, or maybe you see, maybe Joe Flacco doesn't even play a preseason game. Like, Kenny Pickett maybe gets like a couple drives during the preseason, and you give the majority of the snaps to Shador and Dylan. Mm-hmm. Like, getting a chance to see those those reps like that. I know not a lot of people get, hyped up for preseason. I'm a football sicko that loves to see how who's the guy that you thought was a guarantee to make the team that's playing fourth quarter snaps in a preseason game. Like, seeing how
there's always one defensive tackle too playing in that fourth quarter, and we always know
previous Mingo treatment.
Yeah, where it's like, okay, they think you need to get in shape.
Yeah.
Get you out here playing in the fourth quarter. I think it's always like Shelby Harris, because he's like, hey, I'm gonna get in shape during camp, right? Like, that's kind of his move. He's like, I'll just play in the fourth quarter of these preseason games. I'll take it. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see how this all breaks out. I think we've had a thorough discussion about the Cleveland Browns, what success looks like. You guys let us know what you think success looks like. And if you want to know more about where you can catch up with Mac Robinson, Mac, let them know where to find you.
Yeah, you guys can find me on Twitter at MacRobinson95, on Blue Sky at Mac Robinson. And of course, day-to-day, Monday through Friday, I'm going to be on Afternoon Drive. I produce on there from 2 until 7 on 92.3 The Fan in Cleveland.
Make sure you guys check it out. Appreciate y'all for watching. Everybody have a great day. Have an even better night. Peace.